verses 60 through 65. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" "I am," said Jesus. "And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his clothes. "Why do we need any more witnesses?" he asked. "You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, "Prophesy." And the guards took him and beat him. Fill in blank number 2. When asked his true identity, he answered with intensity. When asked his true identity, he answered with intensity. When asked the question that cost him his life, Jesus answered without a doubt, "I am." One of the most historic and revered names of God was spoken, and it probably went off like a bomb in the Sanhedrin when Jesus said, "I am." We remember when Moses was in the wilderness and he said, "Who should I tell the people of Israel that you are telling me to go to? Who am I to tell them is calling them out?" You remember what he said? What did God say? He said, "I am." Here are the students of Moses. This is the Sanhedrin. The students of Moses' law, confronted with their greatest dream and perhaps their worst nightmare. You see, God had shown up, and they hated him. Not for what he did, but for who he is. At the moment of truth, Jesus couldn't and wouldn't deny who he was, even though it cost him his life. Application. At the moment of truth, will you answer with intensity? Often, before I would walk out the door as a high schooler on the weekend, my dad would catch me going out the door, and he would say, "Remember who you are, and remember whose you are. Remember who you are, and remember whose you are." It made an impact on me as I went out the door. Jesus had absolutely no doubt who he was, because he knew exactly whose he was. Jesus knew that he was God's right-hand man. He knew that he was his only begotten Son. But the question is, who are you? Who are you? When the moment of truth comes, that moment at work when you would compromise your morals, in your dating relationships, when you would violate God's standards, at school, when you are tempted to be like everyone else, will you know who you are and whose you are? Only if you know whose you are will you know who you are. You, Christian, are a dearly loved child of God. You're the one that was bought at a price of Jesus' blood. You are a son or daughter of the King. That is who you are. Can you answer with the same intensity that Jesus did? But when it comes to be identified, either by your words or by your actions, what will you choose to do? No. The reality is, many of us blow it. Many of us, at the moment of truth, will refuse to be identified. If you have ever blown it, if you have ever let God down, it's very important that you follow along with the next text that we are about to read. We're going to finish out with verses 66 through 72. Verses 66 through 72. Please follow along as I read. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You are also with that Nazarene, Jesus," she said. But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you are talking about," he said, and went out into the entryway. When the servant girl saw him there, she said again to those standing around, "This fellow is one of them." Again he denied it. After a little while, those standing near said to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you are talking about." Immediately the rooster crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word of Jesus, the word Jesus had spoken to him, "Before the rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. Fill in the blank number 3. Peter's denial saved his skin, but broke his heart deep within. Peter's denial saved his skin, but broke his heart deep within. Part of attaining the blessed life is to be identified with Jesus. Once you've been with Jesus, once you've committed your life to Jesus, you change, whether you acknowledge it or not. Maybe it's the way you talk, or the way you walk, or the clothes you wear, or what you do on Sunday. At one point in your life, someone is going to ask you why you are the way you are, why you do what you do. Peter's denial is captured in all 4 of the Gospels. Each has their own angle, but I would be amiss to not take you to another Gospel and have you check out this verse that is so incredibly convicting. I'm going to have you move over one more Gospel to Luke 22, verse 61. I know I'm making you go 3 times all the way over to Luke, but I really want you to capture this verse. It's in Luke chapter 22, verse 61. Luke chapter 22, verse 61.